Service. All right, my vibrational individual expressions of God on earth. Let's jump right in today. As this is really part two, part of a 3 or 4 part series, as we break down the new, old level of awareness that has to do with how can I serve. At the end of the day, everything is about service. Earlier today, I broke down the curse of being great. That's part one, so you want to make sure that you also check out part one, the curse of being great. As I reveal, explain, illuminate, and simplify, when you become really, really good at something, sometimes that something literally becomes a hindrance. It becomes a crutch. So with the new level of awareness, service is the name of the game. But the way by which you serve, how do you serve, has to do with your architecture. So what we're really breaking down is kingdom architecture, spiritual architecture, psychological architecture, authentic architecture, Christ conscious architecture, and your energy, the way that you express your energy, the entrepreneurial, the marketplace energy. So in part two, this is part two. Make sure you check out part one on my Facebook account. Also, it's on my YouTube account. And then I will also upload it to my TikTok account as well. Because let's be honest, one of the biggest mistakes that I made over the last 10 plus years is showing up to the marketplace with a patent cookie cutter, one size fit all solution. Now, in my defense, math, music, and language, the 3 immutable laws of the universe, Diakony reports, destiny reports, everything that I've been doing over the last 20 plus years got me to this level of awareness. But as I now know, there's levels to this game, and there's a unique, individualized way of structuring your consciousness, your energy, your authenticity, your psychology, and your spirituality, so that way you actually bring about and you have a transformative experience. Man, it is so refreshing to actually be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and then every day move in the direction of that light. This came at a huge dent in my ego. I can look back and see when I was doing my $30,000 days and bought my $1 million house and got my dream car, got my Corvette, moved, and all the stuff I was doing, and then it was all based upon transaction, not transformation. So the new level of awareness is not transactional. The new level of awareness is transformational. So this has been the shift. This is the curse of the master teacher. This is the curse of being great. As I talked about in part one, this is the curse of being good. Because when you really become good at something, you show up not to learn. You show up with a solution. So to all my old clients, I need to apologize to you for showing up with the disposition that I already know you when I don't or didn't. Instead of showing up to teach, I should have showed up to learn. I cannot express, because I became a hindrance to your growth and to your success. Thankfully, I'm always learning. I'm always tuned into the spirit. And as I tell you guys, there cannot be a testimony without a test. There cannot be no message without your mess. You cannot be, and you cannot experience a mountaintop experience unless you go through the valley. And I've been through the valley. In all areas of life, this is another valley. Now I'm on my way to the mountaintop. And when I was in this particular valley, the thing that I noticed is that at the height of my success, that became my mess. So I just like, I didn't do what Samson did when he slew 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. He dropped the jawbone of the donkey. The next verse says that Samson dropped the jawbone of the donkey. So I did not do that. So again, before we jump into the meat of today's message, I must apologize, especially to all my old clients who were rocking and rolling with me as I was going through the curse of the master teacher and showing up in the marketplace with a cookie cutter solution based upon math, music, and language. That's first grade level of awareness. We should have moved on from that once I became successful at that, but I did not do what Samson did. I did not spank 1,000 Philistines and then drop the jawbone. Instead, I gold plated that jawbone and I turned that jawbone into a business model, which is Entrepreneurial Destiny Reports. Now, what happens when you take a 750-page Entrepreneurial report and put it into ChatGPT? You do not want to know the answer to that question because it's going to fuck up your theology. It's going to destroy your whole life. If you prompt and if you understand what I'm saying, I'm going to use my boy Jay Money, Brother Jasper, as an example. He did that and I did it on my end. And he don't know it yet, but we pretty much came up with the same thing. That is, something that he mentioned before, but it even goes deeper than what his level of awareness. AI is a tool. So moving forward, it's all about service. Now, it's always been about service. But what happened is the methodology by which how the service takes place became transactional instead of transformational. Now, I must speak clearly so you can understand the power of kingdom architecture. So that you can really, truly understand the power of grand architecture, which is interesting because that's what the Masons call source. They call him the architect, the grand architect. They believe God is an architecture of this reality. So the God that they worship, knowingly or unknowingly, is Samael, Yapato, the blind God. So they don't worship or tap into the monad, which is the source of the architecture. So even this level of awareness is still a setup for a higher level of awareness unless you pimp the game, unless you understand the psychology behind the psychology, which is where we're going when we talk about kingdom architecture. Not just grand architecture, not just individual architecture, not just spiritual architecture, not just psychological architecture, not just authentic architecture, not just conscious architecture, not just energy and entrepreneurial architecture, which is space, which is when this, again, I ain't going to make the same mistake that I did as a master teacher, as a grand space architect. So I'm not going to worship the tool. I'm not going to fall for the roki doke again. I'm going to use the tool this time, but I'm not going to worship the tool. I'm going to use AI, but I'm not going to worship AI. I'm going to use my algorithm, but I'm not going to worship the algorithm. I'm going to use the pattern, but I'm not going to worship the pattern. The pattern is not God, brothers. The pattern is not God, sisters. The pattern is not God, Master Teacher 33. You cannot fall for the roki doke over and over and over again. I've used base 44, lovable, emergent, caffeine, any meeting, anything, Replit, Perplexity. I've used all of these different AI systems to create an agentic AI process. I wrote a whole book. I put my my prompts in there. And I wrote this book before I came to this level of awareness. Let me look at the copyright date on this book. The title of the book is called The Seven Kingdoms of AI Agents. Kingdom Architecture for a Digital Age. So I wrote the book Kingdom Architecture for a Digital Age before. So I already had the solution. So I wrote this in 2024, August of 2024. How come it took until June of 2026? I had the keys, but I couldn't interpret. See, there's two problems that everybody got, myself included. Number one, the problem we got is we do the same thing with the Bible. People read the Bible, but they don't interpret the Bible. Number one, boo-boo. Your interpretation skills are flawed. Number two, your implementation of your interpretation is flawed. Number three, your manifestation. That's why you're manifesting the wrong key. Master Teacher 33. Now, this is my message. I just invited you to listen. So what mistake did I make? Okay, I was manifesting. Well, I didn't like what I was manifesting. And the reason I didn't like what I was manifesting is because of the way that I was implementing. But the problem wasn't the way that I was implementing. The problem wasn't the way that I was manifesting. The problem was the way that I was interpreting. But the way that I was interpreting my reality was because of my mentality. So the problem wasn't the interpretation, the implementation, or the manifestation. The problem was the mentalization. But even the mentalization of what I was interpreting and implementing and manifesting wasn't the problem. The problem was the structure of the consciousness. The problem was my lack of consciousness or awareness, which is what we're talking about today. So the problem is the way you showing up to serve. The problem is your consciousness. The way that the problem is the architecture or the structure of your awareness or your consciousness. So what we're dealing is, I don't have the solution to your problem. Before, I was arrogant and egotistic enough to say I did, but in actuality, I didn't. I had the numbers. I could tell you the dark side, the opposite. If you're a life path 1, you're a leader. The opposite of a leader is a follower. So that's what I was doing. I took your life path number, and common sense says, again, the opposite of light is dark. The opposite of up is down. The opposite of fat is skinny. So what I was giving everybody was the opposite. But that's a broad level overview. That's not the answer to your specific problem. We understand? So I apologize for being a surface level preacher, or a surface level consultant, or a surface level life coach, a surface level master teacher. My apologies for not drilling down deeper, because I was suffering from the curse of the master teacher, which means I showed up with the solution in hand. I ain't give a about what you was talking about. I didn't listen to learn. There was no active listening. Because why would I listen to you when I already had the solution for you? How can I have the solution for you and I don't even know the problem that you are having? And so the new level of awareness, shut the fuck up and listen. So now I'm in a disposition to serve, because now the one-on-ones is me listening. So I cannot I cannot write a prescription if I don't know the problem. But I showed up in the marketplace. I showed up at your house with the problem because I knew your numbers. And I knew your letters. I knew the math, the music, and the language. That is a broad level. That's the effect. That's like putting a Band-Aid when you need a tourniquet. So if you bleeding out, and I show up and I put a Band-Aid on a wound, it ain't going to stop the bleeding. I got a Band-Aid, so that's what I was doing. I was putting a Band-Aid. You wanted transformation. And I just showed up with information. So what I majored in, I prided myself on providing information. But that nobody wanted information. I didn't even want information. I don't want to learn about economics. I want to be able to transfer from making $10 an hour to making $1,000 an hour. So I don't want to learn about how to make $1,000 an hour. I actually want to implement whatever process, whatever architecture, whatever structure, whatever consciousness, whatever spiritual, psychological, authentic conscious energy, whatever space. I want to master the space that produces the results. So I don't want to learn about, me and Jay Money was talking about, and a lot of the stuff during the counseling, like, he came to me with a specific problem. I never addressed a specific problem directly and specifically until we solved it. That's the new disposition. New disposition is bump everything else except what is going on in your life right now. Active listening skills. So nobody has this level. When I go to the marketplace, now that I'm here, I can see. So I'm listening to YouTube videos and I'm listening to people. People are showing up, they're gurus like me, and they're showing up and they're talking about their product. Like, I don't give a beep about your product unless your product can solve my problem. Let's say, if I suffer from, acid indigestion, and you serving me lemonade and pizza. So pizza has a lot of tomato sauce that causes acid, that has that's acidic, so that's going to inflame my acid indigestion. Same thing with lemons and lemonade, So why? So you say, hey, all I have is pizza and lemonade. Okay, maybe I need a salad. Okay, I don't have that. Okay, I can't solve your problem, but I'm a master teacher, so that means I'm going to force feed you my solution. It's my solution. It's not yours. So that means I got to work really, really hard to convince you. Do you know if somebody's thirsty and you got water and they haven't drunk water in 3 days, how much selling, how much convincing, how much talking do you have to do to get me to pay you for the water? Answer, none. That's how you show up at the market. That's marketplace influence. So we got to understand what's going on in the world, so that way you and you can understand the benefits of this 6-month program. Even when I put the prompt, when I put a 750-page, and I did this with books. For example, I took my book that I wrote on the biology of the temple to deal with specifically the lymphatic system, or lymphy, as one of my old clients, Dr. T. How many of you guys remember Dr. T and Dr. Martinet? I went to Vegas and did a seminar with Dr. T and Dr. Martinet. Still got the video. Man, that was an awesome seminar. So Dr. T wrote a book called The Lymphatic System, and she called it Lymphy. And she created a cartoon character for your lymphatic system. Now, the reason why I'm referencing Dr. T and your lymph nodes is because that is your drainage system. So the lymphatic system is one of the 12 systems, like the skeletal system, respiratory system, muscular system. Each one of these systems, they control a cistern, the biblical word that it talks about in the book of, I think it's Jeremiah, where it talks about broken cisterns. A cistern is something that holds water. Now, the lymphatic system is something that literally is a network of vessels that transport fluid to protect the body from infections, to help the body maintain its, let's use the word, equilibrium. It is also a part of the immune system. Look at the systems. It filters out toxins and waste, while at the same time it helps to create balance for absorption. It assists the digestive tract. So not only is it an elimination system, it's also an assimilation system. So if your lymph nodes, if your lymphatic system gets infected, it lowers your immune system, and it also creates hydration issues. And so it can cause a lot of cardiovascular issues if the lymphatic system becomes blocked or it becomes damaged, or if you give it excess fluid, aka alcohol, that it builds up and it causes swelling inside of your lymph nodes, especially in your arms and your legs, known as, what do they call it? I think it's called lymphedema, if I remember correctly. Long story short, you could treat lymphedema. It shows up as all types of symptoms. And if you make the mistake of treating the symptom instead of the cause, you don't solve the problem, you actually create more of the problem. And so what we're talking about, what I'm revealing, explaining, illuminating, and simplifying to you is, how do you, as an individual expression of God, structure your consciousness so that way your interpretation skills are so on point that you can see your own cells, your own self. Because what you're doing is now you are actively and intentionally organizing your attention, organizing your thoughts, organizing your perception, organizing your awareness. You're shifting from being an all-knowing, showing up in the marketplace with the solution, when you have not done any type of diagnosis to find the issue that's going on in the market. So it's a shift from an autopilot, cookie cutter, one size fits all product. Now you are very intentional and you're very focused on one. And what you're doing is you are identifying one pattern, and you're identifying how do we interrupt that pattern that is running on autopilot, driven by conditional reactions, because they are deeply ingrained in your habits, that now that is routine. That is your current operating system. You must become a detached observer of your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own actions. So number one, you must become a detached observer. The hardest thing in the world that I had to do was become a detached observer. I cannot express to you in the English language, because all I knew is, if I did not figure this out, I would have been financially ruined. Health, fitness, probably wouldn't have affected that too much. Knowledge, I would have just been stuck on stupid. I would still be showing up thinking I'm God's gift to the planet when I'm on another planet now. So what worked on that old planet don't work on this planet. Plan net. I need a new plan to get out of the net. If I hadn't figured out, I knew I would have destroyed my marriage. The wife was getting tired of waiting on me to be the man. And it would have affected my libido. Because men, as you may or may not know, your anxiety, your feeling, you know you ain't the man. Come on, man. You got everybody else fooled. I mean, not you personally, but people, you know how we do, brothers. We lie to ourselves and we say, oh, you know what, this is temporary. I'm going to figure it out. And nigga, you know you ain't got a snowball's clue, a snowball chance in hell of getting out of Groundhog's Day. So that's what I was doing too. I was lying to myself. And it was starting to affect my manhood or my libido. So I had to figure it out. I remember I went a whole, and this is off topic, but I remember I went a good month. And, I was always, especially for my age. Most men I talk to my age, man, they like having sex once a month. And, I was having sex 2-3 times a day. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped working. I think I went like a whole month. Nothing was working. And it was interesting because men, as you probably already know, 90% is 90% mental. So I knew it was in my head. But what was it? What was it that was affecting my libido? It was me knowing that I wasn't my version of the man. And for me, being the man meant being a provider and a protector. I had the protector down, but I wasn't a provider. So for me, I know that, my wife making more money than me, that was a no-go just for me. For some brothers, okay, they cool with that. Not for me. So I can never be married to a woman. I can never be with a woman that makes more money than me. That's just me, though, because that's my definition of a high-value man. That's my personal definition. Yours is a little different than mine. Understand? So whatever yours is yours. But what if you don't meet your own definition of being the man? Well, little Johnny stops performing because he knows you're not the man. It has nothing to do with the other opposite sex. It has nothing to do with straight all the doctors, all of the muscles and, doing, all of the pelvic exercises and all the other stuff that's out there. I know most brothers, a lot of people my age, they get, Viagra and all this stuff. I've never done none of that stuff because I always knew that it was mental. So, like in everything in life, if you get your mind right, okay, how though, Doc? How do I get my mind right? Bam! You're in the right place, bro. Now, let me make sure you understand because I don't know if you know what I just said. So I gotta say this shitness real slow. So I'm telling you that your consciousness has to be realigned, my brother. Your consciousness has to be realigned, and my sister. Now, I know. Everybody just like me, you're going to run out to fight demons and devils. You're going to pray, oh God, you're going to fast. You're going to do the Wim Hof breathing technique. You're going to do some, earthing. You're going to do some sun gazing. You're going to take some vitamins. You're going to take some Viagra. I know. Now, go ahead. Do all of that. When you finish, come back. I'm going to be here. I ain't going nowhere. Go try all of those techniques. Go out and try all of those strategies, brother. Try all of those strategies. Ladies, you too. Been there, done it. I got 2 t-shirts already. Now people come back and say, yeah, Brother Will, some of those strategies work. Absolutely. Temporarily because they don't address the core problem. They just address the effect. So you'll get some temporary relief, brother. May last a week, may last a month. If you're lucky, it might even last a year. Now, let me make sure you understand. Because most people, like myself, You are so good at being you. I had a tooth that was giving me all types of problems for actually longer than that, more like 7 years. So much pain for 7 years. And it's interesting because I had to ask myself, why did you put it? Because in my head, I had the solution. What was the solution? Well, I was taking, MMS, miracle molecule, and I was injecting it into direct out of needle, and I was directing it into I was my own dentist. And Brother George, I put that MMS in there, because basically MMS is just digestible bleach. Remember it came out during COVID and people was doing it and they was laughing at Donald Trump when he was doing it? And it's very, very, very interesting because it is a solution. But is it the solution? Let me be crystal clear. This is how this works. This is why it's so dangerous. It is a solution. But is it the solution? I remember me and my boy Richie Rich got together and we had ordered this sound machine. It was supposed to regrow your teeth with sound. Man, I bought the thing, it was like 10 grand. It didn't even work. Thankfully, I was able to get most of my money back. Then they came out with oil pulling. I started doing the oil pulling, J Money. I was over there gargling and doing all of this stuff with organic coconut oil. Again, it worked, J Money. It worked. Temporary, brother, but it worked. Then I got Hydro. They came out with a new toothpaste. It was all over TikTok. Regrow your tooth enamel. That Hydro, what's it called? Hydro something. That the tooth is supposedly made up. Everybody's using this new toothpaste. So I went out. I brought that too, J Money, and it worked. Then the pain came back. Now I don't know, Brother George. I don't know if you've ever had any tooth pain, Brother George, but I can testify, my brother. Tooth pain will make you rethink your entire life. Tooth pain will make you question why you are living in this reality. Tooth pain will make you consider voluntarily exiting this dimension. That's my tooth pain. I can't speak for other folk. Brother George, the tooth pain I was having, Brother George, it made me question the nature of my reality, whether or not I wanted to continue, sorry about that, I wanted to continue to stay in this dimension. That's how powerful it was. And so let me y'all know I got the new baby here. We got we babysitting, I should say, while the mama was going to boot camp. So it's interesting having a newborn in the house after all of these years. All my kids are grown and gone. But it's, back to the topic. So when this hit, notice because of my level, what's the problem? All of the things that I was doing was not the problem. The problem was me thinking that I was a dentist. The problem was me thinking that I was a master teacher in the area of dentistry. See, my mastery is in the area of structuring, organizing, researching, and compiling different possible solutions in a manner that you can interpret and then implement to solve your own problem. Because I can't solve your problem. I don't know how to solve your problem, but you do. But my job is not to solve the problem. My job is to provide you by doing the research and by structuring and putting it in the correct order so that way, for whatever reason, it clicks for you. Because remember, there's 9 types of learning. There's 9 learning styles. And so let's say you are a visual learner. Now me, I'm more of a word. You say the right words, click, 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 the light comes on for me. So I like the visual, I like the graphs and the charts. No. Because remember, most of us have more than one learning style. Ooh, come on, preacher. I know I'm preaching now. So once you take your learning style, then take your data. So what I did with AI, which is like I'm still wrapping my brain around the power of the system. I'm gonna break that down in part 3, where we're gonna get into what I wrote inside of my book, what I did for the church. Because I wanted to take AI and say, okay, can I create a AI prophet? Can I create a AI scribe? Can I create an AI pastor? Can I create an AI evangelist? Can I create, go through the Bible and take the fivefold ministry and create an AI agent that does that? And to my overstanding, booyah, I did. And I put all of these and say, can I create a system that can spread the gospel? And boom, I did. Then can I create an automatic system that can go through all of, let's say, the pastor's messages and create a member portal that's going to have a live chat box that can answer all of any questions, that would also upload messages that the pastor would preach, that would send out to all social media, that would also have an auto responder, also have a donation button for people that wanted to tithe and all that. So could I automate the entire church process? And I did. Created an entire agentic AI system that generates the graphics, the lessons, questions, publish it on multiple platforms, repurpose old messages, that would automatically send out and host all of the live video streaming and then send it out on a platform like YouTube for people to watch. So why am I saying that about the church when I talk about the church? Because I did the same thing for you as an individual person. And then I created that, and I didn't, and I remember I did a few of them. I remember when I did one for Sister Coleman, Sister Diane Coleman, and I did one for myself, and I did one for my boy, Brother Jesse. I did one for my boy, Richie Rich, and it's still on my website underneath the Done For You system, and I still have that product. Back then it was 30 grand. Now, everything that I'm doing is 50% off of whatever's posted, because I've learned to automate and do it a lot faster. Just like this system is only 5 grand. When I really started, it was, I think, 7 or 8. But okay, what is the system though? How do you serve? How do you show up in the marketplace? Nobody wants your product. Nobody wants your service. Nobody wants your book. Whatever you thinking, nobody's interested. Whatever you're conjuring up in your brain, nobody cares. Now, this is hard. Remember, this is what AI told me first, about 3 or 4 months ago, before I rebranded and started. How do you serve? How do you serve? How can you be an asset? How are you an asset or liability? What are you? Who are you being? What are you doing that's beneficial? Because at the end of the day, come on, man, let's be real. Nobody wants information. Everybody wants transformation. And really, nobody wants transformation. Everybody wants, what everybody really want is restoration. What is restoration? To restore, to return back to the original. So what we have now is just normalized pathology, and we have basically normalized limitations to our consciousness. So we become so the negative habit pattern it is so prevalent, it is undefeated. Nobody nobody can totally remove that demon, that disposition, that pattern that keeps coming back. High highs and low lows, myself included. So until we reset your nervous system, until we go back and reset your nervous system back to when you was in your mother's womb, or when the spark of God was placed. Nobody knows when that really happens. Some say at conception. Some say, 7 days after conception. Whatever that time is when God implants his disposition into your brain, bam, we have to go back to that. That's the R spot. That's the pleroma. That's the plural. So there's no flesh. So there's this spirit. Thus, the reason that I start with spirit. So to my knowledge, and I've done the research and I check every once in a while, and you do the research. Research, is there any Ethiopian Christ-based diagnostic, like mental health diagnostic systems on Earth? Brother Mitch, I haven't found one yet. Brother Mitch, I'm the only one. Just like when I started the Deaconry reports, just like when I started the Cladonomics. So these things are structural. So I structured something. So that's what I do. So I'm not an author. So I got cursed by my own, I put my foot in my own mouth, so to speak. Meaning, AI said that you are suffering from the curse of being a master teacher. So everybody's on this call, you're suffering from the curse of being you. Because you're so good at being you that you are really basically kicking your own self in your own ass. Basically, you in your own way. Okay, what that means? That means you have to do the opposite of the objective to reach the objective. I'm pausing for theatrical effect. We're going to wrap up. This is part 2. Make sure you listen to part 1. If you don't have it, I'll text it to you. I'll email it to you. Just text me. I just uploaded it on my YouTube channel. I did part 1 this morning on Facebook, and I uploaded it onto my YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. Why? See, we choose to live in the lie. What is the lie? The lie is the belief that you have right now. Whatever you believe, that's the lie. We live where we believe. You live where you bleed. Do you know that you buy the way that you sell, and you sell the way that you serve? Okay, that's too deep. Let me back up. Because what are we talking about? Making money is the result of something. Remember what I said at the beginning of today's message. What did I say at the beginning? I said that I did myself. So again, let me apologize to all my clients. Anybody that ever paid me a dime, anybody that ever bought a book from me, anybody that's ever purchased anything from me, let me apologize to you for doing you a disservice by providing you with a solution without first understanding the problem. So I apologize. So to all my ex-clients, again, this 30-day program is $5,000. If you're an ex-client that has purchased anything from me, you get 50% off. So we'll do like we did on Father's Day. Again, for a limited time, but anybody that's purchased a Deaconry report from me, you can enroll in this system that's $5,000 for only 2.5. And we can do 2 payments of, $1,200 or whatever it is to get to the 2.5. Why? Brothers and sisters, to make money, you must do the opposite of making money. What is the objective? What is your objective? What do you need to do? What is your outcome that you want? Whatever the outcome is, do the opposite of the outcome in order to reach and achieve the outcome. Now, I do this and been doing it in relationships and in physical fitness. It becomes easy, it becomes automatic, and I don't know why it took me 60 plus years to understand it's the same thing in business. So whatever outcome I want in a relationship, I already know, do the opposite of the thing that I want. So if I want to get somebody's attention, I ignore them. So if you want to draw somebody to you, if you want to draw something to you, you don't put energy into it. Now that's the total opposite of what it seems. So to make money, you got to take your energy out of making money, and you got to put your energy into doing what? What makes people give you money? When you make people feel good. When you show, see, people know when you show up to make a transaction versus to make a transformation. You can sense it. You can sense when somebody trying to sell you something. So what happens? You get pushed away. You don't want to buy something from a salesman. But when somebody say, I don't want your money, what happens? You want to give them your money. When somebody says, I don't want your money, it totally changes the game. You know what? Hang on, everybody. I gotta take this just 1 second. One second, everybody. Okay, I'm back. I thought I was gonna have to take that call. Let me see. Switch over just a second. Okay, there we go.